Hi, happy mid-October. I guess you're not going to be able to miss me, huh? I'm wearing a fluorescent orange shirt and bright purple lipstick. Speaking of my shirt, well, it's actually a sweatshirt, but this is Camp Voorhees. If you know what movie this is from, let me know down in the comments. I decided to go ahead and sit at my main channel setup stage, whatever you want to call it. I have been filming a couple other videos for my other channel today, and I thought, you know, I don't feel like getting set up in front of the bookcase, and I figured you probably don't care, right? You're here to hear about the books. So I'm sitting here today. Today I'm going to be doing my mid-month check-in, and so far I have only read 3 books, and then I've got like 60 pages left in the next book, but I needed to get this video done because I'm posting it today. And there's another book that I'm halfway through on audiobook. I'll tell you which one in a minute. But so I'm actually almost really done with 5 books. But regardless, I don't think it really matters. We read what we read when we read it. I don't feel like there's a certain amount of books I have to read every month. I mean, I know I do my TBR videos, but those are just kind of a guideline, something to pick from, that kind of thing. But do I actually feel like I have to read all 10 books or all 10 of those books every month? No, not really. It's just a guideline. The first book that I read this month was Shade by Chad Nichols. I don't even want to tell you what it's about because I think this is one of those books that you should just go into blindly. I think it would have a better effect that way. I had read the synopsis when the author, so this was an ARC, by the way, when the author asked me to read this book and do a review. I read the synopsis, I thought it sounded good, and then he sent it to me. By the time I got the book, it had been a couple months later, and I kind of forgot what it was about, and I just picked it up and started reading it, and I loved that feeling of reading it and not knowing what it was about. And I think other people would enjoy the journey more if they go down it that way as well. Well, there's a trailer to this book that gives you kind of an idea of what it's about if it were made into a movie kind of thing. I will put the link for that down in the description box if you're interested. But this book is, they're saying it's slated to be a psychological horror or a thriller. But I thought it was just a flat out horror. Yeah, there's some psychological parts to it, but I thought it was pretty scary. It's very gory. There's a lot of violence, So if you're not looking for something real bloody and violent, this might not be the book for you. But if you are looking for that, you might want to get it right away. It had an amazing twist about 2/3 of the way through, and then another twist at the end. And for that alone, I really loved this book. I would have liked a little more character development. I'm one of those people that wants to know maybe too much about characters. So I felt like I didn't really understand who the characters were, really. But because, for me, it's all about characters, but it's also all about the ending of the book, how well it's done. And the ending was done so impeccably that I gave this 4 stars. I was actually thinking about giving it 3, but the ending made me give it 4. And I found out there's another book coming, and this is going to be a series. I do look forward to reading that and finding out what happens next. And I think at the end of the book, knowing that, okay, so it's a series, it made me look at the book a little bit differently. So yeah, I definitely give it 4 stars. I did really enjoy it, but buyer beware. If you don't like a lot of violence or gore, this is not the book for you. Then I read the Diva Spices It Up, which is part of the Domestic Diva series that I love so much. This is my favorite cozy mystery series. It's the series that got me into cozy mysteries, so it'll probably always be my favorite. I just love Krista Davis. I love her writing. I love the way that she sets everything up. I loved the characters and not just in this book, but the whole series. One of the things I really love about her books is the main character. Her name is Sophie, and she loves to cook. She's an event planner. She kind of does like a Dear Abby, but for home decor and cooking, and kind of like a Martha Stewart kind of way. And her kitchen is a character in the book, I feel like, because of the time that she spends cooking and just how soothing and relaxing it is. It's very nurturing feeling. And I don't know, I feel like I'm getting like cooking nourishment just by reading the book, or her books in general. And it motivates me because I love cooking. It motivates me to want to cook more. And so I love reading her books in the fall because I tend to cook a lot more in the fall and the winter than I do the spring and the summer. It just is what it is. This book definitely helped me get in the mood to cook, and I have been cooking quite a bit more since then. Another character in these books is the town. This takes place in Old Town, Maryland, which is in or near Alexandria, I think. And it's just amazing. I feel like, yes, definitely, the town is another character. She just sets it all up so beautifully. I just love all the cooking references, and she gets so into the decor that she'll tell you the pattern of the plates that someone is eating off of. And I always have to stop and look it up. I do. I get obsessed with it. She writes so well about decor and seasons that it really does put one in those seasons and get them in the mood for those seasons. It's nice to escape our ever so dramatic world by spending time with my friend Sophie and her very comforting life. I mean, I know she's a sleuth and there's crime and murder going on around her, but it's done in such a comforting way. What? It is, though. I'm literally hoping for a home like Sophie has when I do eventually buy a home. Like, I've been wanting this kitchen since I started reading her books. What was that, 7 or 8 years ago now? This is what I want. It's like a kitchen with how I picture it. It's like a kitchen, and it's got an eating area across from it with a fireplace. It's just so cozy, and people can come and sit and eat and kind of talk to you while you're cooking, and it just sounds amazing. She's got a very humorous and light way of writing books, and it definitely shines in this book. Her character development is just, it's perfect, especially in this book. It's enough to where I feel like I know who the characters are, but it's not overdone. There's not like 45 pages describing someone's hair color or something like that. And her characters have flaws, which, thank you, finally. I'm so tired of reading about perfect people. I could throw up. I really could. I'm tired of it. But of the books that I have read of hers, this one, I believe, is the best written one. The mystery that went along with it was just amazing. It was a 5-star book for me, which, as much as I love her writing, they're not usually 5 stars for me, but this one is. I did want to read you a little excerpt of the book so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm saying about her. Fall was my favorite time of year in Old Town. It was way too early for pumpkins, but they already decorated the front stoops of some historic homes. Others had lush wreaths on their doors, featuring dried flowers and giant sunflowers. The leaves on the trees that lined the streets were still green. It was that transitional time between summer and fall. School had started and weekend beach trips had ended. Warm, summery days were still the norm, but they were interrupted by chilly days that reminded us fall weather was already on the way. Right? Like, oh, I love it. It's like, I'm like picturing Hocus Pocus. I know that's fully in Halloween season at that point, but when the kids are walking to school and like the leaves have changed and like, I love her writing so much. I am working on a video of her books and this series specifically. So keep your eye out for that if you're interested in cozy mysteries. Also, she does put recipes at the back of her books that are featured in the book. And I did actually make one of these recipes, and I'm going to put that in the video as well. So if you want to hear about that recipe, what it was, what I thought of it, all that, it's in there. And then the book that I've been listening to, audiobook, is the next and so far the most recent book in the series, called The Diva Serves Forbidden Fruit. I've been really enjoying that, but I'm kind of on a book buying freeze right now, so I didn't want to buy it, but it was on audiobook, so how could I resist? And then the third book that I read was John D. MacDonald's Murder in the Wind. This book is not very long, but it feels a little long. Here's the writing in there. Like, look at the font. It's so tiny, right? I would say the first half of the book, probably at least, is each chapter is about a different character that's going to be later on in the book. And this author, he's another one. He's like my I want to say she's my friend. She doesn't know who I am. The author, Krista Davis. This guy is like her in the sense that he's just got perfect character development. Not too little, not too much. And they're flawed, and I love it. I am here for it. He talks about people in a way that is so brutally honest. And there was a couple of times where I started to kind of get uncomfortable with the way different people were thinking. I mean, because this was written back in the 50s, I think, right? 50s or 60s? Yeah, 56. So there was things that were acceptable then that aren't now. And I just thought, Ugh. But then you know what I did, though? It kind of opened me up to understanding that not everybody thinks the way I do, and that's okay. I don't have to agree with what other people think, but I do have to maybe be more open to trying to understand it and accept it. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I just feel like we have become a society where if people don't agree with us, we want nothing to do with them and they're canceled. The problem is that has really divided all of us, and I don't see how we're ever going to have a sense of community again if we don't start finding a way to meet common ground with people we don't agree with and finding things to like about them anyway, kind of thing. And I felt like this book just really kind of, this one and Razor Blade Tears both really helped open up my eyes to accepting people and trying to understand people that aren't like me. I mean, not that anyone's 100% like me, but I definitely am reaching a new respect and understanding for people that don't agree with me. It doesn't mean I think everything about people is right, but I don't want to keep disliking everyone who doesn't agree with me. I just don't think that's conducive to living in a world with other people. Anyway, so I thought it was very beautiful, and like I said, it helped me step outside of myself and be more open to other people. I think it's easy to ignore older books and only look at new releases because maybe we think they're not relevant, or we're trying to, oh, this is this new exciting upcoming book. This book has just really been a nice reminder to give older books a chance. Not just classics, but older books in general. Because sometimes I feel like I have this thing where I read books that I've read throughout my life again. And so I'll read books from maybe the 80s or 90s again, that kind of thing. And then I read new releases, and then I read classics. But what about all those books in between? I mean, I'll never be able to read all the books I want to in my lifetime because I want to read them all. But, or most of them. But why not be more open to reading older books too? And yeah, this book just lit a light in me. Yeah, that makes me want to give older books a chance. Okay, so I thought this was a mystery. It's really not a mystery. It's more of an adventure. and it's a thriller at times. It's a really interesting take on human nature, who we are, how we react to things, who's strong and who's not in certain situations. If you've ever been in a life or death situation, you kind of find out who you can count on and who you can't kind of quickly. Like there's this certain stick-to-itiveness that some people have that other people don't. And it's interesting how it can affect things in an emergency. So you've got this hurricane going on, which I've been through when I lived in Florida, and it's definitely not fun. And you definitely do want to surround yourself with people who are survivors. And not everybody is really a survivor. I hate to say that, but it's just true. It was just such a good, suspenseful book about this hurricane that's coming, how everybody reacted to it, who survived, who didn't, Mother Nature, and how at the end of the day, we just aren't as strong and as powerful as we think we are. Mother Nature is still far superior to us. And the ending was perfect. Once again, I love the endings, right? This was a good, solid ending. Oh my gosh. I wanted to read you an excerpt from this book too. I like doing this because I feel like it gives you a really good idea for what a book feels like. It's a lot easier to know if a book's worth reading if you like an excerpt from it, right? It was funny about age. Funny how easily you could forget that you were old, be trapped into thinking a young man's thoughts. He remembered how it was at 40 when you could think that if you were lucky and healthy, there would be just as much life ahead of you as there was behind you. But when you were over 60, you knew the biggest part was behind you, and you didn't know if you had one more year or 10 or even 15. Sometimes 15 seemed like a lot of years. Other times, it seemed like a meager, unfair amount, like you were being cheated. That was when you looked at the young ones and felt stinging envy and thought how if you had their life, you wouldn't waste a moment of it. Not a single second. Isn't he a good writer? He's such a beautiful writer. I love this book. I really do. I'm so excited that I got it. And if you saw my video that I just did, my last book haul, I bought another one of his books, and I can't wait to read it. And if you want to know more about this book, Shade, I will put a link down in the description box to my review video of this. I go quite a bit more in depth and talk more about what I thought of the book. Now we're at the point where I'm going to do my life updates, and I hate to tell you this, but there's like nothing going on, which is kind of a blessing actually. Brad's eye is doing so much better. He's able to drive again, and he's very happy that he's doing so well. I feel so blessed that we were fortunate enough to find this eye doctor and be able to go to him. If this had happened to us 2 years ago, 5 years ago, we wouldn't have even been able to afford the medication or all the doctor visits. And I'm just so grateful that we were able to get him the kind of care that he needed. And so what I wanted to talk to you about the rest of this video, since I don't have a whole lot to say, I'm sure in the next one, I'll have a lot more to say. But I just signed up for this subscription, and it's not the kind that I've ever heard of before. It's a subscription where you get a letter every month. I think it actually ends up being 24 letters that you get. And it's basically telling you a story. So by the time you're done with the year, it's like you read a whole book, but it goes on for the whole year, which I think is just so amazing. I'm going to get on my phone and I want to tell you about it. So it's called theflowerletters.com, and it's a snail mail subscription of historical letters. And they've got a new historical Christmas bundle that you can get. But it says, ready to step back in time to experience powerful stories of love and intrigue, all told through actual letters. Say hello to a brand new storytelling experience for fun of history, romance, and pulse-pounding adventure. Our stories take place on the pages of intimate and personal letters sent between characters. So they're not writing you a letter. They're writing to each other, and you're being a voyeur. Drawing you into their homes and dreams and the greater world around them. Our first 2 collections are told through 24 letters. So is that 24 each or 24 total? That I'm not sure of. You receive, oh, okay, here we go. You receive 2 letters every month for a year, creating an ongoing story experience that dramatically unfolds over the course of months. So there's the Audrey Rose collection. And that one, it says, we explore what it might have been like to live through World War II, to experience the range of emotions leading up to the war, the triumphs and heartbreaks, the indelible moments that might carry you for months or even years of longing and wondering, what if? Will they ever come back to you? Will the story end happily ever after? And then the other one is the Lily Clara story. That one is set in the anything goes rip-roaring Old West. The Lily Clara series is big on adventure and intrigue and, of course, unforgettable romance. Throw in an outlaw chase, a vengeful vigilante, and a good old-fashioned Spanish treasure hunt, and the Lily Clara collection is a wild western like no other. So it's $12 a month for this subscription. So here is the envelope. And I'll just show you, I'm not going to like read any of it, but I'll show you what comes in it just to give you an idea of what it is in case you're interested in ordering it. Now, the one that I have subscribed to is the Lily Clara collection, the Wild West one. If I like it, I'm going to do the other one after I'm done with it because so far, I mean, this is my first envelope, but I'm really liking it. And that's why I wanted to tell you about it. So you get this, and it's just telling you about the collection, and it says that I'm going to get 24 letters over the course of the year and 12 postcards, which is really cool. There's an excerpt from a newspaper giving me information about this storyline. And then there's a letter from Lily to her man. Here's a picture of Lily, which is kind of cool, right? Then there's, and it tells you what order to read them and everything. Then there's a letter from Lily's man to her. And this is just so cool. I've always wanted to get a telegram. Well, I kind of feel like I got one. And then there's, it said you get 12 postcards. Here's the first one. And I don't know if they all look the same or not, but I was kind of thinking if they're different, I might put these in like a frame. You know those frames that have like different slots for things that are this size? That might be kind of cool to like put them all in there or frame them individually and put them up or something in my future library that I'm going to have. Wouldn't this be cool? So I'm going to hold on to, well, I'm going to hold on to all of it, but, and then it's got this little, this is like a card that they had in history, and it kind of goes into explaining that back in the day, these were kind of like business cards that companies would make, and they would make them really beautiful like this, and people would keep them. And that was the point, was to make them so beautiful that people didn't want to throw them away. And apparently you can collect these now, like real ones, but this is an example of what one was. And so there's all this historical information that goes into this. And then it tells me too, on the first card that I had, it tells me that if I want to look deeper into any of these parts of history that are mentioned in here, I can go to their website and click on which letter it is, and it'll go even deeper into the history. So if you like history and you're excited about an interactive way of learning about it, you might really want to get this. And I'm just telling you this because I got it and I'm enjoying it. There's nothing in it for me. If you sign up, like, I don't have like a referral code or anything like that. I'm just telling you how much I'm enjoying this. But what made me pick this one was my husband and I watched Deadwood recently. I had never seen it, and I loved it so much. And I was like, I want to read this one first. And I'm so happy that he doesn't mind me splurging on something like this. But it's just so fun. And like, that's what I need. I need stuff like this to keep me going. I need to get a fun letter in the mail that I'm looking forward to. If I'm getting 24 of them a year, that's like every 2 weeks. It kind of takes me back to the 80s and 90s when I would buy things in the mail and have to wait for them to show up. Of course, back then we didn't get tracking with everything we bought. We didn't even have email. So I would just be excited to check the mail every day. And I kind of feel like, also my cousin and I used to write each other postcards and letters. And I couldn't wait to get home from school every day to see if I had another letter from her. And it's this feeling that I feel like people who were born after a certain time will never know that excited feeling of waiting for something to show up. Now you just email and it's there right away. Or if you do order something in the mail, you know when it's coming. They send you stuff telling you that it's on the way, and they give you a tracking number and all kinds of stuff. So it kind of takes me back to more pure times, times when things were a little more simple. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. And if you're watching this today, have a happy weekend because it's Saturday. Happy reading. Bye.